Greetings from Glastonbury. This morning it's a misty morning. Everything outside is very calm and quiet, as increasingly has been the case, amazingly, for the last so many weeks, 10 weeks I think it is now, since the lockdown. And this is truly turning into a very special time. Under higher arrangement, who can understand the ways of the Divine Lord? But somehow or another we have been drawn to a halt. I feel as if it's an opportunity just to consider and listen to the silence, if you're fortunate to live in a place like Glastonbury anyhow. So this week we are continuing with chapter 9 of the Bhagavad Gita. I'm just going to begin with a couple of prayers with my tambura. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhūtāni Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paśya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 So last week we heard how Krishna says, I am present everywhere. I pervade this whole universe in my unmanifest form, avyakta murtina. I'm here, but you can't see me. And he says, mat-sthāni sarva bhūtāni. I within all beings. No, let me actually, it's the other way around. All beings are in me. Mat-sthāni, sarva bhūtāni. Sthāni, the Sanskrit word sthāni, is related to the English word stand. To say something, such and such a person stands here, it's the same meaning as sthāni. So when Krishna says mat-sthāni, sarva bhūtāni, he is saying all beings, mat-sthāni, they are in me. So now this week's verse, the first line is Krishna says, Nacha mat-sthāni sarva bhūtāni, meaning, Nacha mat-sthāni bhūtāni, all beings are not in me. And Prabhupada translates that. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. So there's a paradox. As becomes increasingly the case, actually, with higher and higher vision, we start to see paradoxes. Paradoxes, of course, are not very popular with the rationalist. The rationalist wants everything to be clear. But in the higher reality, increasingly, we discover paradox. And the reason, well, of course one hesitates to give a reason because material reasoning doesn't apply. And I guess that's what it comes down to. Material reasoning can't fully encompass and explain the higher reality. So this week's verse, Na cha mat-sthāni bhūtāni, all beings are not in me. Paśya me yogam aiśvaram, just see my aiśvarya means, or aishvara, it means mysticism, mystic magic. Just see me yogam aiśvaram, my mystic yoga. All beings are in me, and yet they're not in me. Bhūta-bhṛn, I support and maintain all beings. Nacha bhūta-stho, and yet I am not present with them. Mamātmā bhūta-bhāvanaḥ, and Prabhupada translates, although I am the maintainer of all living entities, bhūta-bhṛn, nacha bhūta-stho, and although I am not present with them, Prabhupada, the translation reads, although I am everywhere. And I would have to inform you that I'm looking at the old original edition of Bhagavad Gita, and there is actually, appears to be a slight oversight here in the editing, because Krishna actually says, Nacha mat-sthāni, or Nacha bhūta-stho, I am not with all beings. I maintain all beings, yet I'm not with them. In the revised edition, I noticed this morning, there's just a short phrase has been inserted to clarify this, and that's one of the just small but countless examples of why the revised editions of Prabhupada's books, although I know some people are not happy to have a revised edition, but there's good reasons for them. And this is one of them. I often used to think about this verse and puzzle over it, because Krishna says, I am the maintainer of all beings, and the original translation says, and although I am everywhere, still myself is the very source of creation. I don't mind that at all. It made me think deeply, but it's because actually the not is missing. So Krishna is not here, and yet he's maintaining everything. Anyway, end of technical note. Let's just see what Prabhupada says here in his explanation. The Lord says that everything is resting in him. This should not be understood. The Lord is not directly concerned with the maintenance and sustenance of the material manifestation. Sometimes we see a picture of Atlas holding the globe. Holding the globe on his shoulders, and he seems to be very tired, holding the great earthly planet. Such an image should not be entertained in connection with Krishna's upholding this created universe. He says that although everything is resting on him, still he is aloof. Interesting word Prabhupada has chosen there when Krishna says, although all beings are in me, I am not with them. I'm far away. And Prabhupada uses the word aloof. So unlike this image of Atlas, who is certainly not aloof, he's struggling to hold the earth. Let alone Krishna is not struggling, he's not even directly involved, according to this verse. Now, as I said at the beginning, paradox is a very important part of the understanding of the Gita and of the higher philosophy. So here Krishna is saying that he's not involved. But we're going to hear, in the course of chapter 9, Krishna is going to take us from this this one dimension to another dimension entirely. So Krishna is, although we are resting in Krishna, Krishna is not here. Prabhupada goes on and says, the planetary systems are floating in space, and this space is the energy of the Supreme Lord. But the Supreme Lord is different from space. He is differently situated. Therefore the Lord says, quote, although they are situated in my inconceivable energy, still, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I am aloof from them. This is the inconceivable opulence of the Lord. So this is the mystery, really, of living in this creation. That everywhere we see the evidence of the divine person, this is, after all, Krishna's creation. Directly or indirectly, Krishna has brought all this into existence. I think of it a bit like a painting. If I appreciate some beautiful painting, present in that painting is the artist. The artist whose vision the artist is depicting the artist's vision in the painting the artist produces. And sometimes in a gallery, there may be a large painting on display, a well-known perhaps painting, or anyway a large beautiful painting. And I've seen how when people gather in front of that painting, if there's a few people in the gallery, there's an energetic exchange starts to occur. Most people are probably not aware of it, but I've seen it, the energy flowing from the observers to the painting, and from the painting back to the observers. There's an exchange happening because the artist's vision is imprinted in the painting. So this is a very simplistic example, but in this creation, Krishna's vision is imprinted. And it's not fully displayed, as Krishna said in last week's verse that we looked at. Avyakta murtina, my unmanifest form is here. My form is here, but it's not the manifest form. It's only very partially visible. So, I'm looking from side to side because there's a window there and there's a window there, and I can see in the garden so many beautiful flowers. I'll just actually turn this and show you that the garden is full of flowers, and these flowers are and the trees, they're showing me the glories of the Creator. And of course, let alone the flowers in the garden, all the creatures, the birds and bees. And we also are created beings, and we human beings, we also are part of this divine creation. And so we carry within us the imprint of the Creator. So that's available for everyone, and the more we enter into the spiritual life, the more we will feel and perceive this invisible presence, and it becomes really quite deeply felt. So that, the more as I practice the spiritual path, eventually it may come to the point where I never can really entirely forget. I can't lose sight of this divine presence which is all around me. And that's what Krishna, of course, wants. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's message again and again is, look for me, see me, think of me, remember me, and whatever it is that you have, give it to me. Make your whole life an act of surrender to me, and you will. And then, of course, what will then happen is my vision will shift. There is the material dimension of length and breadth and height and time, the 4 dimensions. But there are other dimensions. Even within the material world, there are different dimensions. There is also a whole other reality, which is the spiritual reality. So that it is possible, actually it is possible, to see Krishna wherever I am. Prabhupada once said, I'm not when he arrived in New York, he said this. He said something similar in London. I'm not in New York. I'm not in London. I am in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is Krishna's abode. Wherever I go, I'm in Vrindavan, he said. And it is perfectly possible for us, although physically, in terms of the 4 dimensions, I am present here in this earthly realm. But on the spiritual plane, I can be entirely as Prabhupada says here, aloof. I can be away from this place, as Krishna is saying, that although I am, in one sense, I'm here, everything's in me, and yet I'm not here. So in one sense, although we are tiny, but we are of the same nature as Krishna. If we were not of the same nature as Krishna, how could we have a feeling of connection with Krishna? How could we uncover love? Actually, love is something which arises because of the commonality between two beings. It's what brings us together. It's because we share the same nature. And Krishna has, and we have, the same nature of pure spirit. So as Krishna is both present and not present, we are also the same. And increasingly, as my spiritual nature awakens, I feel myself to be here and not here. And even I can be here in a spiritual way. So seeing everything as the energy of Krishna, to be used in the service of Krishna, to be the flowers, to be offered to Krishna. And I can pick a flower and offer it to Krishna, or I can simply leave it there and know that it is blooming for the glory of Krishna. This whole creation and all the beings within it are intimately connected to Krishna. But Krishna wants to teach us that there is a difference between my personal presence and my avyakta murtina, my unmanifest presence. Both go side by side, and among the followers of Lord Chaitanya, Sri Chaitanya taught us that we are always to try to think of Krishna, to love Krishna, and yet we look at this world and we don't see Krishna. That beautiful verse from the prayers of Lord Chaitanya, the Shikshastakam. Now I have to bring it to mind. Yugaitam nimishena chakshusha pravisaitam sunnayitam jagat sarva govinda vidahi namo. Oh my Lord, this world seems empty. Tears are flowing from my eyes in torrents. A moment seems like an eternity without you, Govinda. Because I cannot see you, Govinda, this world is vacant. My life seems empty without you. I simply wish to be in your presence. So let me see you as much as I can, present in everything, even though you're not visible to me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I thank you for joining me, and I pray that you will find Krishna present, even though he cannot be seen, but find his presence throughout his creation, and also with each and every one of us personally present. And we'll explore that more as we continue through this chapter 9, how by devotion, through love, we can actually bring Krishna into our lives. So, see you again next week. Hare Krishna.